$1.4 million. That's how much Kim Kardashian gets paid for a single sponsored post on her Instagram. See this building that looks like a church? This is Kim's house. This is a closet just for Kylie Jenner's purse collection, which is adorable compared to the building that Kim has where she stores 30,000 items of clothing, which defies logic, but hey, that's how Kim rolls. If she wants to change Mother Nature, she's rich enough to do it, because here she is making it snow in Southern California for her holiday party that was estimated to cost over $1 million. The Kardashians have amassed a nauseating amount of money, so much that they've been called the royal family of America, but more powerful. After 2 decades of starring on a top-watched reality show, they've collected over 1 billion followers online. They've built an empire of businesses, and they're constantly winning accolades for being marketing masterminds. So then it's worth asking how this family of high-paid influencers became famous in the first place, and whether they deserve the success that society has blessed them with.
You don't have any, forgive me, any talent.
But we're still entertaining people.
Her ass makes money, honey.
You may think you know the story of the Kardashians' come up, that there was a certain intimate tape of Kim and her ex Ray J that somehow made its way into the hands of an adult film company, but there are pots of tea that have never been spilled about what went down.
My name is Shiraz Hassan, and I'm the biggest fame dealer in the world.
Shiraz 62.
We got a great history, bro.
Hey guys, I ran into Shiraz. You have no idea the journeys we've been on together.
She's hungry, she's focused, ready to do whatever it takes.
In this documentary series, we're gonna investigate exactly how the Kardashians snatched the spotlight for themselves and which shady co-conspirators might have helped them get their hands on it.
We're old friends.
We could go on and on about this.
Hello?
Chris, hey, it's Joe Francis.
Joe Francis, where are you, honey?
I'm in jail.
You know, that jury, you should be put in jail, you stupid idiots. You should be put in jail or line up and shot.
You are going to be shocked by the twisted web of players that have helped build the Kardashians' queendom, and by the sheer amount of engineering that's gone into making them famous and keeping them that way. This is a story of fakery that goes back to the earliest days of Hollywood, and even though the names and faces have changed a little over the years, the old tricks have stayed the same. And yes, those are psychic candles that Chris is pushing in this infomercial, which would be hilarious if it weren't so predatory. But before we break down the many scammy endorsement deals the Kardashians have done over the years, we're gonna go back to that salacious tape that made Kim a household name, because we need to look at her enterprising co-star, her ex-boyfriend, Ray J. Even though a lot of folks suspect that Kim or her mama Kris Jenner orchestrated the tape's release, there are a lot of suspect details surrounding Ray J and his sister Brandy. For one, their mom and manager Sonja accused the Kardashian siblings of stealing from her. So, was the tape leaked in revenge as part of a family feud? Or was the tape dropped to raise quick cash after Brandy was hit with a $50 million lawsuit? Or maybe it was all just part of another momager's savage strategy to trick the masses into making her son a star. We're gonna look into all of this and more, so get your mugs out, cause we about to guzzle, y'all. This episode of Guzzle is brought to you thanks to the generous support of viewers who have joined my Patreon. For a small monthly contribution, you get exclusive first access to channel news, and you can help me decide thumbnails, video topics, merch designs, and a lot more. And I want to give a special shout out to my thirsty stan, Randy Lau. You are a gem. Hey y'all, it's Mary, and welcome to part 1 of the Kardashians Exposed series. Now, this family has more money, power, influence than just about anybody else on the planet, but to understand how they got there, we need to go back to where they came from. Let's start at the beginning. It's the 80s in Beverly Hills, and we're in a very nice neighborhood. I mean, we've got street lamps growing out of the privacy bushes here, and this is where the Kardashians grew up. Well, not exactly here, but Google's not even allowed to drive down the road that the Kardashian house is on, which, by the way, is over 6,000 square feet and worth over $12 million.
1982. Courtney is 3.5 and Kimberly is 2 years old.
From a very young age, Kim loved taking pictures and she loved putting herself in front of the camera. Girl also knew how to strike a pose, and she was twirling on the runway, yes honey, so Kim was a natural under the spotlight. Anyway, let's talk about the family situation. This is Robert Kardashian, and he's the father of all the Kardashian sisters. Well, we're almost positive. Robert co-founded this newspaper, Radio and Records, that covered the radio industry, and it published music charts with the top hits that were used by big radio shows.
From Hollywood, it's America's Top 10 with Casey Kasem.
Thank you, Charlie, and hello again, everybody. Welcome to America's Top 10.
Robert's newspaper was so successful that Billboard eventually bought it, but he wasn't just an entrepreneur, he was also an attorney, and a very high-profile one. Back in the 90s, he represented one of the most famous defendants ever, O.J. Simpson, in a murder case that was so publicized it was nicknamed the Trial of the Century. I mean, I don't know about you, but my dad was never interviewed by Barbara Walters on primetime TV, and so Robert Kardashian was a very successful dude. Now, Robert wasn't the only impressive guy in the Kardashian girls' lives, though, because when he split up from their mom, Kris, she married Bruce, now Caitlyn Jenner, who was extremely well known as a record-setting Olympic gold winner that was dubbed the world's greatest athlete.
He hurls the javelin for 862. He's done it! Bruce Jenner set a new world decathlon record.
Because of that, Bruce appeared in all sorts of media, and Bruce even got an endorsement deal and appeared on multiple Wheaties cereal boxes, which again, nobody in my family has ever been asked to do. What I'm saying is that the Kardashians grew up privileged AF, so privileged, in fact, that one of their first appearances on TV was on a show about trust fund kids trying to survive on a cattle ranch, starring big sister Courtney.
On Rich Kids Cattle Drive, 10 trust fund babies kiss Beverly Hills goodbye.
Is there a cushiony saddle over there?
Can the sons and daughters of some of the wealthiest families in the world handle a life without luxury? Find out on Rich Kids Cattle Drive, exclusively from E! Networks.
So with Courtney starring on a show like that, along with the famous fathers of the Kardashians, you can see that they definitely did not come from humble beginnings, right? But even though they had money and Hollywood connections, Little Miss Kim had her sights set much higher.
Does everyone get a tape of this? Because I hope you do, so you can see me when I'm famous and older and remember me. Excuse me, are you leaving? Okay. My name's Kim Kardashian. I'm the dopest on the ropest person in this class. Stop Lorenzo, because he's just jealous that I'm doper than he is, and that's just a fact. I'm more popular than she is. I love it. The class, everyone loves me, so I'm so popular, and everyone
She is just so charming, like such a sweet kid, you know? Now, because Kim grew up wealthy, she had the luxury of loving to shop.
I've always been a big shopper, so I would kind of obsessive shop, and when I would go to a store, I'd buy like the same thing, but in 5 different colors. I think I tried these. I just knew that I wanted to be in the fashion world.
Kim segued her passion for fashion into a career as a celebrity stylist. And Kim was cleaning out some fancy closet. She was landing gigs with big-name stars like Cindy Crawford, Serena Williams, Lindsay Lohan, and Kenny G, to name a few. Which is an impressive lineup and something that I don't quite understand given how Kim dressed back in the day. Now, one of the celebrities that Kim was working for back in the early 2000s was an R&B singer and the star of the TV show Moesha, her best friend Brandy. But after Kim took the job, things got heated between her and Brandy's team. Brandy's manager at the time was her mama, named Sonja.
I understand how you would like to do business, but guess what? You do it this way or no way.
Sonja says she gave Kim her credit card back in the day to make one and only one purchase on it for her job as Brandy's stylist. But Sonja says Kim didn't stop at one purchase because she says Kim shared that credit card number with her siblings Khloe, Kourtney, and Rob, and they made a whole bunch of unauthorized charges on it, totaling over $120,000, including buying a whole bunch of stuff at the clothing stores the Kardashians owned called Dash and Smooch.
I have the best advice for women in business. Get your ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
The irony of Kim Kardashian telling people to get their asses up and work, but Ray J just spilled the tea and said she and Khloe Kardashian stole $120K from Brandy. Brandy's mom, Sonja, said that she confronted Kim and her siblings about the charges and that she gave them the opportunity to make things right without having to go to court. And she said that they profusely apologized and they promised that they were going to pay the debt back in full. But she says the Kardashians did not keep that promise, and so she ended up slapping them with a lawsuit. That's when a rep for the Kardashians phoned up the press and said Sonja's accusations were totally false and that they never used any credit cards without permission, and they looked forward to proving the absurdity of Sonja's claims in court. So at this point, things are getting heated between Brandy's family and the Kardashians.
You know, the word on the street is that Brandy doesn't want to be on the set if Kim is around and keep Kim away from her and that whole bit.
Completely not true.
Now, to thicken the plot, Kim was also dating Brandy's brother, Ray J, at the time. And after the credit card dispute, Ray J says he cut things off with Kim and stopped speaking to her. I said, I don't want to be sleeping around with you no more. You stole money from my family. So Brandy's family is clearly feeling burned by the Kardashians, and this is 2007. That is when Sonja says that the Kardashians last used her credit card, and when I'm guessing that she discovered all these charges since they stopped after that. And 2007 happens to be the same year that Kim Kardashian's sex tape suddenly winds up in the hands of an adult film company, which led some folks to believe that Ray J may have leaked the tape to get revenge.
Family should look after each other.
Absolutely.
But there may have been another reason for folks to suspect that the sex tape was intentionally released by Ray J: money. To explain this, we need to go back to the months leading up to the drop of this tape. At that time, the Norwood family's leading lady Brandy was under some intense financial pressure after she was involved in a fatal car crash.
Bad accident. I think there's fatalities. There were parts flying and there's a bunch of smoke.
According to the initial incident report from law enforcement, Brandy was driving her Land Rover on the highway when she hit a smaller sedan in front of her at 65 miles per hour. That sedan then veered to the left and was hit by an oncoming car, tragically killing the driver, a woman named Awatef Abudahaj, who unfortunately lost her life at only 38 years old.
She had massive internal injuries, numerous fractures up and down her body. So they tried working on her for 8 hours, and unfortunately, she was pronounced dead at the end of that night.
I couldn't believe it, and I don't like to think about it because I don't think that's something I could ever get over. But that was one of the worst times in my life.
She left behind 2 children, a husband, and parents. If you could talk to them, what would you say to them?
I think that's a private matter. And I've written in my journal about it, everything that I would want to say, and I just would rather keep that to myself, if you don't mind.
This is a very sad situation. To date, we don't see Brandy stepping up to the plate, accepting her responsibility.
The California Highway Patrol is recommending that actress-singer Brandy be charged with misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter in a freeway crash that killed a motorist last December in Los Angeles. The misdemeanor charge carries a maximum sentence of 1 year in county jail and a $1,000 fine.
Even though Highway Patrol said that Brandy should be charged, and of course the attorney for the victim's husband said that the wreck was Brandy's fault, the city's attorney's office had not yet done a full investigation. And in the meantime, many folks were dragging Brandy online, assuming that she was to blame for this collision, but that is not what the city attorney's office found when they did an examination. There was no evidence that Brandy had been distracted or using her cell phone while driving, or that she was under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time. However, toxicology reports showed that Awatef, the woman who died, had slight traces of marijuana in her system at the time of the collision, according to a report by TMZ, who said that it spoke with a rep for the county coroner. On top of that, a source from law enforcement said that the woman who died actually hit the car in front of her first and slammed on the brakes afterward, and that caused Brandy to run into her car, according to a report from TMZ.
I didn't wake up that day to be involved in a fatal car crash. I didn't plan for that.
Ultimately, there were no criminal charges filed against Brandy, but that didn't mean she was out of the clear yet, because she was facing a mountain of trouble in civil court. See, this was a 4-car pileup with multiple parties who'd been hurt. and a wealthy celebrity who'd been involved and who'd been under criminal investigation, so you can bet there were going to be lawsuits flying claiming that Brandy was to blame, no matter what the city attorney's office had concluded. I counted at least 5 separate lawsuits that were filed against Brandy after this incident. First, the parents of the woman who passed away filed a $50 million lawsuit against her. Then a second suit was filed by Awatef's children, and then a third from her husband. And this was on top of 2 separate lawsuits from 2 other drivers who were hurt in the crash. With this avalanche of legal claims, you can imagine that Brandy and her family might be seriously stressing about money at this time. And even though Brandy was a top-selling musician who had starred in TV shows and movies, and I'm sure she was making some good coins at the time, but I would think that $50 million was still a lot of money. Even if it was a long shot first asked by a plaintiff, it's still a scary number. And again, that's just what one of the lawsuits was seeking, and that's on top of the attorney fees that Brandy was paying, which I'm sure were not cheap. Look, if I were in her situation, I would be desperately looking for ways to make money any way I could, which should have been easy for a big star like Brandy, but maybe producers were not lining up to book her after this crash in December 2006. If we look at what Brandy had going on in 2007, we can see on our IMDb that there are no acting gigs listed for 2007, and it also doesn't list any appearances on shows that year. But you can see that the year before, in 2006, Brandy was a judge on America's Got Talent. But after this collision, producers announced the next year that Brandy would be replaced by Sharon Osbourne as a judge. Now, maybe this was because Brandy was busy dealing with all of these lawsuits in the aftermath of this crash, or maybe producers were scared to work with a celebrity who could be charged with manslaughter, and prosecutors had up to a full year after this crash to charge Brandy with the crime, according to TMZ. This raises the question about whether Brandy was having trouble booking her normal lineup of high-paying gigs after this crash, and the question of whether Brandy's family might have been looking for alternate ways to generate cash to help cover all of these court bills. If traditional media were scared to touch Brandy with all of these lawsuits against her, and so many people assuming she was to blame, it makes you wonder whether her family turned to a seedier industry that they knew would not judge them, the adult entertainment business. I'm sure that industry would have been more than happy to work with Brandy, but obviously she could never do that because her reputation couldn't take any more negative publicity. So maybe it was time for her brother Ray J to step up to the plate and drop a sex tape that had the added bonus of getting revenge on the Kardashians. And this all becomes especially intriguing when you consider that Ray J and Kim's sex tape gets released 1 month after Brandy is slapped with this $50 million lawsuit. Now that timing alone might be enough to make you start to look sideways at the Norwood family, but we have not even gotten to Ray J and Brandy's manager, their mama Sonja Norwood, because even though people think that Kris Jenner is the most savage stage mom around, right? Look, Sonja was making boss moves for her kids way before Kris ever arrived on the scene. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and a comment down below. That helps me enormously with the YouTube algorithm gods, especially because these investigative videos take some time. And another way that you can support the Guzzle channel is by getting some sweet Guzzle merch. All of this swag is designed by me personally, and it will also score you karma points if you invest in it because you'll be helping to spread knowledge about shady moneymakers. Not to mention that you can use the code EXPOSED to get 15% off any order in the next 48 hours, and you can shop at marybetsy.com/Guzzle merch if you're interested. All right, y'all, let's get back to the video. Back in the day, when Brandy's singing abilities started getting noticed by music executives, they told Sonja that her daughter needed a manager. And even though Sonja didn't really know what that meant, she knew she was the right one for the job.
All I knew was I was her mother and I was gonna make decisions for her. And if you didn't like it, that was too bad.
Sonja learned the ropes of showbiz real quick because in 1993, her daughter Brandy got a record deal at only age 13. Then Brandy drops her first album, which ends up climbing the charts and selling 6 million copies worldwide, with Mama Sonja guiding her career at every turn.
If I didn't have my mom and dad, I don't know what I would do.
Now singing sensation Brandy Norwood is taking the nation by storm once again, but this time as the star of her own TV show, Moesha.
In the show, Brandy's character Moesha was this lovable teenager who also had a strong head on her shoulders.
You ain't dating till you're 25.
You said 16.
21.
16.
18, and I'll throw in a 7. 16 and I will be walking. Thank you very much.
She's just a typical 15-year-old that's really trying to live her life.
Moesha was the first sitcom centered around a black teenage girl, which had to be such an inspiration for young girls of color to see themselves in Brandy on screen in this really popular show. And when I say really popular, I mean Moesha had serious stans. The first year, the cast did a promotional event in New York City, and the crowd was so hyped they had to shut down the subway station.
It was just Moesha madness.
But Moesha would not be Brandy's last hit, because in 1997 she landed the classic role of Cinderella in a TV movie made by Disney, and she got to star in it with one of her idols, Whitney Houston.
I wish I could go to the ball. Who are you? I'm your fairy godmother, honey.
This production had a huge budget, which paid off because it was a giant ratings success. I mean, 60 million people tuned in to watch when it originally aired, and ABC had not gotten ratings that high on a Sunday night in a decade. Not to mention that this was the first time that Cinderella had been played by a black actor, which again established Brandy as a really important role model for young black girls who got to see her star in this major Disney musical. Now, with all of Brandy's successful music and acting gigs, she of course became a very well-known celebrity, which meant she also scored big endorsement deals, including one with CoverGirl Cosmetics and another with the fashion brand DKNY. Y'all, she even had a line of Barbies based on her, which again was so valuable for little girls of color to have a chance to play with a doll that actually looked like they did. Now, because so many young girls looked up to Brandy, she kept this image of a wholesome girl next door.
You know, I have this clean image and I like being nice and I like, being happy all the time.
I'm a good girl, so I'm straight. I'm doing my show, I'm doing my singing, and I'm cool. It's
You
all
really
good.
are cool.
Yeah.
But despite her good girl image, Brandy was not always as innocent as she made things seem. In 1998, Brandy dropped a duet with another leading female R&B singer at the time, Monica. The song was called The Boy Is Mine, and it was about two ladies fighting over the same man, and in the music video you can see them going head-to-head vocally.
Every time she comes with a lick, I come with a lick, and we're like battling and the singing whole thing, and it's really cool.
But rumors started flying that things were not cool between Brandy and Monica, and that these two were battling it out in real life too.
People think that Monica and I are kind of like against each other and we're enemies.
There were reports that the role-playing went a little too far when they were filming the music video, and that fingers got a little too close to faces. And there was even a story that Monica punched Brandy before they performed the song together at the MTV Video Music Awards.
It popped in the face backstage.
Now, Brandy and Monica denied slugging it out at the VMAs, but that didn't stop everybody from speculating about the drama, from debating who was the better singer, or from making memes like you wouldn't believe.
When they compare me to a hood rat Monica, you know I'm the better vocalist. I mean, the black Cinderella, you know what time it is. Can somebody bring her some ice for her arms? All that reaching out of tide.
And y'all, don't even get me started on the parodies of this song that have flooded the internet for decades now. All of these super dramatic parodies, along with the gossip about real-life drama between Brandy and Monica, of course had people talking about their song together, and in the process, getting that catchy hook stuck in their head. That helped fuel the single's rise to the #1 spot on the Billboard Top 100 list, where it stayed there for 13 weeks, which is still the title for Atlanta Records' longest-running #1 song to this day.
#1 for 13 weeks. Can we read that?
The single also became the best-selling song of 1998, and both of the singers won a Grammy because of it.
I know this is totally out of my image, but yo, this is a Grammy.
you're doing the media circuit tour, which means that me and 4 other idiots will ask you the same kind of, did you hit Monica in the face? Did you do this? Did you do that? Does that get tiresome after a while?
It does, but I like answering the questions because I know the truth, and it feels good to be able to tell the truth.
But sweet and innocent Brandy may not have been 100% honest when she was out promoting this song, because she later said that she and Monica played into the rumors about their infamous feud. Monica also admitted to her post that there was no beef between them and that it all started as brilliant marketing, and then they hyped up the dramatics.
She forgot the lyrics to the Boys Mind Room performance a couple of weeks ago. And I
roll the teleprompter, please.
Yeah, I know all the words.
Some of it's been blown out of proportion to a degree. I'm sure the song, being as combative as it was, kind of added a little fuel to the fire.
But if you go back and listen to that song, but if you go back to Angel, you'll understand.
Okay. So this is the first taste of Brandy and her team not keeping it 100% real with her fans, but it would definitely not be the last. In 2001, Brandy started dating her music producer, Robert Smith, and she soon became pregnant with his child. But when she broke the news to her management team, they started going into full crisis mode because they thought that Brandy's squeaky clean image as a role model for young girls did not allow for her to have a baby with a dude she was not married to, especially when she came up as a gospel singer in the church.
That was something that was not okay for the Brandy brand.
Brandy says her handlers pressured her to marry Robert to keep her reputation intact, but she says she didn't want to marry him, and so her team decides it'll be best if she just lies to everybody and tells them that she and Robert got married, even though they really didn't. So that's the plan they run with, and in 2002, Brandy makes all of these media appearances talking about her pregnancy with Robert and saying that she and Robert got married in this secret wedding the year before, but things get a little awkward.
We're here with Brandy and her mother, Sonja. It was recently revealed that Brandy had a secret wedding last summer. Not even Brandy's parents knew about it.
Can I only show somebody this? Can we get a shot of this? Don't hurt yourself, everybody, looking at this. Can you look at that? Who is he? And how'd you go about getting married?
His name is Robert, and he's a producer and a songwriter, and I'm very happy with him. And we secretly married last summer, so.
Let's start with your marriage. When did you actually get married?
Last summer. I can't give you a date or time.
That's okay, that's fine.
Yeah, keeping that kind of private.
It already happened, so. How long did nobody know you were married?
About a couple months ago. Everybody was speculating about it, and I really wanted to be upfront about it because marriage is a beautiful thing.
Now, why did you elope? Because I know your family, y'all are tight.
We basically just didn't want to make a big deal about it. I'm kind of like just a private person.
Did your close inner circle, like your parents, know?
My parents know.
What did you think when Brandy told you the news?
I was not as shocked.
You were not?
No, I was not.
As shocked as we were. Okay.
Right. I remember one day we were standing in the driveway, remember? And she and Robert were playing around. And my husband and I said, when are you guys going to get married? And they said, we are already. I said, Brian, for real? And so then my husband stepped to Robert. And then Robert.
And what did you say?
Dad?
I said, no, you guys aren't. I said, I might have to get my shotgun.
Wow. Okay, is it just me, or is Oprah not buying this shit? Like, I feel like they did not rehearse their stories well enough before they went on this massive media blitz. But Brandy and her team would have another opportunity to sell their story because she got an MTV reality special that year called Brandy Special Delivery that followed her and Robert during the final months of her pregnancy.
She needed the public to believe that she was still America's sweetheart.
And whether they believed it or not, they watched because 3.7 million viewers tuned in to see Brandy give birth to her daughter, Sarah. But despite all the effort that went into making Brandy and Robert look like the picture of marital bliss, about a year after Brandy gave birth, her rep announced that she was splitting with her quote-unquote husband. Looking back, Brandy says end of marriage wasn't painful. Brandy said, I think if I was deeply in love, it would have been tough, but I wasn't really heartbroken, no. Well, damn, I mean, she could have acted like she was a little more into Robert, and maybe Brandy's comments had Robert feeling some type of way because the next year, in 2004, Robert drops by Wendy Williams' radio show and he spills some tea about what really went down with him and Brandy.
I thought he was coming to promote his artist, but he in fact came with the agenda to tell me and the world that he and Brandy were never married.
Not only does Robert tell Wendy that the marriage story was a big lie, he also tells her that it was Brandy's momager Sonja who hatched the idea of a fake marriage because being an unwed mother didn't fit with Brandy's image. So how did Brandy respond? She doubled down and lied some more. Brandy insists she didn't lie about marriage to save her image. The singer says she and Robert Smith had a, quote, non-traditional marriage. She was like, yeah, we didn't go to the courthouse or anything, but I knew what I wanted, I knew how I felt about Robert, but I guess he didn't feel that way. When this all came out, Brandy was also adamant that she would never deceive her fans. She said, right now it's really about my fans knowing that whatever I believed spiritually at the time is what I believed.
I just wouldn't deliberately lie to them just to save my image.
But a lot of people were not buying this, and they were looking sideways at Brandy, asking themselves, can we really trust her? Eventually, though, Brandy did fess up that the marriage was all a stunt, saying, the lie about being married was the fall of my career. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made. Add to that the car wreck incident that happened a couple years later, and Brandy's career definitely took a hit.
I asked you if you were married at the time, and you said you were.
I said that I was
And
married.
why did you say that?
I felt the pressure of...
It's okay.
Okay. I felt the pressure of, again, having to be perfect. And I'm really sorry for that, because I mean, you just don't lie to Oprah. Okay.
Brandy said she lied because she was afraid people would judge her and that everything she worked so hard for in her career would be at risk if she told the truth. But the irony is she ended up hurting her career the most by trying to trick her fans and cover up this perceived scandal. And by the way, it is a good time to point out that Brandy's pregnancy never should have been considered a scandal. No matter what some ancient book written by a bunch of sexist dudes forever ago says, there ain't nothing wrong with a woman having a child on her own, especially a woman as financially secure as Brandy was. And there is nothing wrong with being raised by a single mama. I mean, obviously, look at how I turned out. And look, I don't blame Brandy for lying about this. She was so young and she had an enormous amount of unfair pressure put on her, pressure to lie so that she could be a good role model, which is completely backwards if you think about it. But I am so happy to see that Brandy is having the last word on her story because she is straight up glowing in this song that she did in 2020 called Baby Mama. In the song she sings, I know my smile can be upstaging. On the stage, I provide like a daddy and a mother. Ain't dependent on you, I'm a baby mama. The whole world looking at me, single mama. I'm every woman and a baby mama.
My definition of success is maintaining a goal. Even if you're not successful in everyone's eyesight, you're successful in trying. I want to do more movies. I want to produce. I want to write. I want to start my own company. I want to be a businesswoman. Maybe I'll be president.
Go, girl, go. She is epic. Brandy was born a role model. She never needed to lie to be one, especially because when you're a celebrity, lying to your fans to try to look better than you are, that is a horrible PR strategy. When you're famous, your fans already put you on a pedestal. They're already constantly reminded what an amazing singer and actor you are, how beautiful you are, how many endorsement deals you have, and how many famous friends you have. You are practically superhuman to your fans if you're a celebrity. And so if you run into a scandal, that is just an opportunity to bring you back down to earth, to make you really relatable with your fans and to get a little vulnerable with them. And it has the added bonus of making headlines and getting people talking about you. Now, scandal is not something to be scared of, it is something to embrace. And this is a lesson that I suspect that Sonja Norwood has realized, because back in the day, she may have been worried about protecting her kid's reputation, but if you look at her now, it seems like she ain't stressing that anymore. In 2019, Sonja wrote on her blog that after over 20 years in the entertainment industry as a music and TV film manager, I should tell it like it is. If you have boundaries that you aren't willing to cross and aren't ready to sell your soul to the devil for 30 pieces of silver, that can potentially affect your career. And Lord help you if you stand for integrity, honesty, and try your best to protect your reputation, these qualities can stand in the way of opportunities. And it sure seems like Sonja did not want to miss any opportunities with her other showbiz kid, Ray J, because his scandalous reputation is what put him on the map, and it has definitely opened up some very profitable doors for him. In 2008, the year after the sex tape drops, Ray J releases a single called Sexy Can I? Okay, so it's well known that Ray J has pretty much become an industry joke after a series of flop albums and that video with a certain Miss Kardashian. However, I have to give it to Brandy's lil' bro. This new single, Sexy Can I, is actually kind of, well, good. And there are a few lines in the lyrics of this new song that remind us about Ray J's scandalous tape. He sings, "Girl, how you shake it, got a player like, oh, it's a Kodak moment, let me go and get my camera." Now, Ray J's song Sexy Can I is released on January 8th, 2008, but it does not start blowing up right away. That doesn't start happening until later that month when Kim suddenly gives an interview about her sex tape to the free tabloid in the UK with the highest circulation. 3 days after that interview, Ray J's song Sexy Can I enters a Billboard chart for the very first time. Then a couple of days after that, on February 4th, Ray J's mom Sonja files that lawsuit that just happens to be against the Kardashians, and who's at the center of the allegations? Ray J's ex Kim, of course. TMZ then reports on the suit, writing the Norwoods the perfect headline saying, "Brandy's ma to Kim K? You screwed my girl too." Articles like this about the lawsuit, of course, remind everybody about that sex tape that's also alluded to in the lyrics of Ray J's new song, and then next week, Sexy Can I is climbing the Billboard charts. Then, about a month later, on March 9th, the first episode of the new season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians premieres, and the week after that, Billboard has a little article about Ray J in its magazine, and his song is getting serious radio airplay. A few more Kardashian episodes drop, and Ray J continues to kill it in the charts and is again featured on how well his new song is doing. So all of this definitely makes me wonder about the legitimacy of this lawsuit filed by Ray J's mama Sonja, but the timeline is not the only thing that raises questions for me. If we go back and look at the allegations in Sonja's lawsuit, she says that her credit card had unauthorized charges across 2 years, about $60,000 in 2006 and another $60,000 in 2007. Now, maybe they were swimming in so much money they weren't keeping track, but don't you think you would notice $60,000 missing in 1 year? Another weird detail is that Sonja asked the court to order Kim and her siblings to stop using her credit card. But why didn't she just cancel the card? I mean, if she could figure out how to file a lawsuit, why couldn't she figure out how to call that customer service number on the back of her credit card? Also, the attorney who filed this lawsuit for Sonja is Edwin McPherson, a guy who may look familiar because I showed him in my other video on Travis Scott, where he was defending Travis after the Astroworld tragedy, and Edwin also represents Kanye. Now, Edwin McPherson is a very popular entertainment lawyer with a ton of clients in the music industry, so this could totally be a coincidence, but it's still interesting. Anyway, another thing that has me doubting the credibility of Sonja's allegations is this event. This is a fashion show that the Kardashian sisters walked the runway for in October 2007. That's right, Kim, Khloe, and Kourtney used to be runway models, with Kim giving quite a performance here. But anyway, back to this event in October 2007. Now by this point, Kim and Ray J had broken up. And remember, Ray J said he cut things off with Kim because he said he couldn't be with somebody who stole money from his family. So that means that at the time of this fashion show, shit has already hit the fan between the Kardashians and the Norwoods. So why then is Brandy smiling here in the front row at this fashion show, watching the Kardashian sisters walk down the runway? I mean, I sure as hell would not be at a show watching somebody who stole $120K from my mama, okay? But if this lawsuit was all a sham for publicity, well then there'd be no beef, and Brandy might just be there cheering on her best friend. Maybe that's why there's this paparazzi video from the event showing Kim and her family outside the venue after the show, and in the very same video, we see Brandy talking to the camera with the Kardashians close by in the background. And again, this makes me wonder if the sex tape and Sonja's lawsuit were just stunts to help fuel Ray J's rise, and if they were, they did a very good job. After Ray J's single, Sexy Can I, blows up in the charts, and everybody sees him dancing with ladies in the music video and singing about being a playboy, the next year he announces that he's ready to give up his wild lifestyle and settle down with the right girl. And how's he gonna do that? With a reality show, of course. In 2009, VH1 premieres For the Love of Ray J, which was as bad as it looks. In the show, 14 women across the country come together to try and tame the ultimate ladies' man.
Me. I'm Ray J.
I'm Ray J. I can't even. The show follows Ray J as he searches for his one true love twice. Because, spoiler alert, the woman he chooses in the first season who he calls by the name of Cocktail, by the way, yeah, that relationship didn't pan out.
I'm here because I am trying to have Ray J be my boyfriend.
Oh, honey, bless your heart. A couple of years later, in 2013, it's about time to bring up that sex tape again, because Ray J drops a song called I Hit It First, with a music video featuring a Kim Kardashian look-alike and lyrics that say, I had her head going north and her ass going south, but now baby chose to go west, which is an obvious reference to Kanye West, who was married to Kim Kardashian. Now, speaking of the Kardashians, we know that's a family that knows how to monetize their fame, right? I mean, they've got this empire of brands that they own and they market all of them on their show, right? Well, look, Ray J has his own empire going.
Ray J is more than a reality star. He is a tech entrepreneur.
Thank you. The R&B singer has now turned full-on businessman in tech world.
One of Ray J's early tech products was a foldable electronic scooter that went up to 20 miles per hour and had all the techie bells and whistles you'd want, like a USB charger and a Bluetooth speaker. After Ray J made the rounds at tech conferences and did a bunch of interviews on news shows, and after videos of his famous friends started popping up plugging his new scooter, it wasn't long until people were asking whether this reality star turned entrepreneur might be the next Elon Musk. And in 2019, it seemed like Ray J was on his way, because that year a Canadian scooter business acquired Ray J's product and he walked away from the deal with $34 million, according to thesource.com. Of course, it didn't hurt either that Ray J was on another VH1 reality show called Love and Hip Hop, where he got to shamelessly market his new scooter. In this episode, for example, Ray J's fiancée Princess Love is mad at him, and so he decides he's going to do this grand romantic gesture to make it up to her.
When Princess sees my gesture of love, she's gonna be speechless.
Look up, baby.
And of course, he presents her with a giant billboard advertising his scooter brand. Does it make sense? No. Does it have to? No, because let's be real, a lot of reality shows ain't trying to win Emmys, they're trying to sell products. But Ray J was not just trying to sell scooters. Ray J just made a deal worth Kardashian-level cash, and it wasn't from a sex tape. In 2017, Ray J scored a $31 million investment to launch a consumer electronics company called Raycon Global.
Ray J's got a company called Raycon.
It's taken over the world.
I started Raycon with one goal, and that was to shake up the wireless audio industry to its very core.
Raycon introduced wireless earbuds that were much cheaper than Apple AirPods, but that still look good. And if you believe this sponsored article, the company made $100 million in sales in the first 3 years. With this degree of financial advancement, Ray J may very well be the first R&B artist to reach $1 billion in revenue. Of course, if Ray J wants to reach that goal, he'll need to keep making headlines to stay relevant, and considering that he's filed for divorce 3 times already, it looks like he's doing a good job keeping people's attention. And if you're like, girl, that is too far, those are his relationship problems, and maybe they are, maybe I'm crossing a line, but look, it is hard to know what is real and what is fake when Ray J tries to pull shady stunts like this.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's Ray J. Check it out. Right now, we in LA. We at Venice Beach. A lot of people don't know I'm crazy on this skateboard.
Bro, you know damn well that wasn't you, bro. Like, you dead-ass love lying. So let's go back. Ray J starts skating with his right foot leading, but this dude leads with his left foot. And can we talk about the physiques here? Because Ray J, you ain't that skinny. And there's no April Fool's comment from Ray J admitting that he used a stunt double. No, instead there's just this caption flexing about the Ray J, entrepreneur, singer, TV star, and skater. But does it even matter whether this is true? No, because now everybody's rewatching this video. They're trying to analyze, was that Ray J? They're giving their opinion in the comments. The post is getting mad engagement, which the algorithm loves. And so now, next time Raycon wants to push a new product, Instagram's gonna be sure to serve it up in people's feeds. And speaking of that, let's return to the mastermind behind Ray J and Brandy's careers, their momager, Sonja Norwood. On her website, Sonja writes that taking the singer-actors from platinum records to tabloid headlines, from personal tragedy back to TV, film, and music stardom, has required a navigational strategy engineered by Sonja to ensure her clients remain relevant and successful. But Sonja may not have engineered every strategy in Ray J's career all by herself. Look, Sonja Norwood knows what she's doing when it comes to managing entertainers, okay? But she doesn't keep her expertise all to herself. Her LinkedIn says she trains other people on managing performers, including parents of celebrity children. And you know who else was a parent of celebrity kids? Kris Jenner. Remember that before the sex tape drops, Kim and Ray J are dating, and seeing as both of their families lived in LA, I wonder whether the Kardashians and the Norwoods ever got together. Maybe the two families met up for dinner. I don't know, but if they did, it would seem natural that Sonja and Kris would talk about the profession that they both did, the fact that they were both moms managing their kids' showbiz careers. If these two ever got together, I can imagine that they would share some tips, maybe talk some strategy, maybe put their heads together and hatch a plan to skyrocket their kids to fame. Look, I don't know, this is all just speculation, but I think it's reasonable to speculate about this given that Sonja, Ray J, and Brandy all have records of lying to the media to get the right kind of publicity. Besides, if the tape was intentionally released, then Ray J and Kim would definitely not be the only entertainers in history to shove themselves into the spotlight with an engineered sex scandal. This brings us to our next episode of Kardashians Exposed. We're going to go back and look at one of Kim's biggest inspirations, the curvaceous icon of sensuality, Miss Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn became the world's biggest star after explicit photos of her made headlines, but was her sob story as innocent as the papers made it seem? Or was her scandal one of the most elaborate scams ever invented by Hollywood? I've dug up some details that are going to blow your mind, and you are never going to look at a celebrity headline the same way again. So if you want to see this in the next episode of Guzzle, then make sure you're subscribed so you can slurp up all the tea that I'll be spilling, or check out the description box below for links because the next episode might already be out. Either way, I want to know what you think about the Norwood family. Do you think that Ray J, Brandy, or Sonja played a role in the release of that tape with Kim? Do you think that Sonja's lawsuit was legit? Or do you think that Ray J has just capitalized on all the attention he's gotten from that tape? Also, y'all remember that skating video stunt that Ray J pulled on his Instagram? Well, I saw a few comments like this saying, clearly that wasn't you, LOL, but respect your hustle. What do y'all think? Do y'all respect the hustle? Do you think that this is just part of the game that celebrities need to play online? Or do you think it's messed up for celebs to deceive their fans? Let me know what you think. And if you made it all the way to the end of this episode, then let me know that by leaving a comment down below with the hashtag #EmptyMug. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you, you're my favorites. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.